It is now we watch the Thran age become swallowed in war, and from it, Phyrexia ascends. Halcyon prepares for war. The city walls are garrisoned with offensive and defensive technology, as the citizens shield themselves with faith in Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth himself stands beside Dyfed in the core of Phyrexia, cradling the greatest weapon of all in his hands, a single, flawless power stone that would serve as the battery for the portal between the planes of Dominaria and Phyrexia. The planeswalker that had perished within this dark soul of the plane had been dissected and catalogued by Yawgmoth and his healing core, and confident he can outrank its former master, conducts the ritual to merge himself completely with Phyrexia. As soon as Dyfed leaves Yawgmoth to his devices, the ravenous core takes a hold of him. It holds him high in the darkness. Tendrils of arcane magic wrap and writhe through his being, interconnecting him to the arteries of the plane like a grotesque heart. It becomes his body, his senses, his mind, his essence, and despite Dyfed's predictions of the plane burning him away in its sheer hunger, Yawgmoth proves himself worthy. "We are alive," he declares, the plane's voice mingling with his own in a horrifying chorus. Yawgmoth temporarily disconnects himself from Phyrexia and returns to Dominaria with Dyfed, who brings him to the Caves of the Damned to stand before the portal that links the worlds together. The flawless Power Stone has been split in two, and only those two fragments of the Power Stone can ever undo this portal. With a razor-sharp grin, Yawgmoth makes plans on how to hide the pieces so this never occurs. Meanwhile, the inhabitants of the Caves of the Damned watch on in stunned awe at Yawgmoth and the portal. He holds out his arms and roars to the people that they are to be the first children of Phyrexia. Next, he goes to check up on Glacian. Yawgmoth finds the genius of Halcyon refusing any further treatment, as translated by Rebecca, since her husband's speech has turned to incomprehensible mumbles. Yawgmoth tells him of new treatments that may prove more effective, such as glistening oil soaks, which completely draw the poison of the Power Stones out every follicle of the body, or there is the option of grafting empty Power Stones into the flesh of the body, which absorbs the debilitating energies and is removed upon becoming full. Glacian continues to refuse, when Yawgmoth announces that he is certain that what ails the genius is a lodged sliver of Power Stone still somewhere deep within his body, near unobservable and needled into him by the blast at his mana rig all that time ago. Immediate surgery was once more required on the site of where the chunk of charged Power Stone had once been. Glacian is manic in his protest to this, but Rebecca is equally as manic to see her husband well again. The surgery goes forward, and Yawgmoth uses his meticulous skill to widen and spread the wound until he is able to reach in and pluck a glowing fragment of charged Power Stone. News reaches Yawgmoth and Rebecca that an allied city-state has fallen in a vicious attack. This is an opportunity to strike with a counter-offensive, officially putting the war into full swing. He and Rebecca mount a command cruiser with a full crew and soar into the skies above Halcyon, with a Phyrexian armada in tow. They set sail to intercept the force that has felled their ally. The battle is a nighttime dance of airships, implosions, explosions, ray gun fire, and death. The superior, merciless Phyrexian armada decimates the enemy Thran force, sending an unmistakable warning to the rebelling city-states. Surrender, or your blood will serve as payment for your insolence. The Phyrexian armada gets word that the enemy army has turned their sights on Halcyon. Yawgmoth is confident the enemy will never reach the city, as they must pass through the Meghedon Defile, a span of desert plains which are not only advantageous ground for his own forces, but an ideal setting to trial a new weapon named the Stone Charger he has been developing. While Yawgmoth's war preparations are completed and he sets off with his Phyrexian armada to meet the enemy, again in the Defile, Rebecca stays behind in the capital and visits her husband. He is as lucid as he has ever been for quite some time, and this compels Rebek to give him the time to listen to him properly. He explains that the scourge of Yawgmoth is unstoppable now, but there is still a chance for the people of Halcyon to wriggle free from his grasp. He instructs Rebek to gather and board people into her Temple of Ascension like a heavenly ark, and to get it as far away from this place as she can. The temple is adorned with power stones, worlds unto themselves, the temple akin to a multiverse. The people could ascend and be saved within these worlds. The clarity and conviction of Glacian's words break the devotion Rebek has had towards Yawgmoth, and she agrees. Glacian tells her one last thing, that not only does he believe the power stones Yawgmoth is grafting into his subjects are an alternate mean of control, but during his own recent surgery, Yawgmoth didn't just remove something from his body, he had replaced it with something else. Glacian could feel it thrumming deep within his own wounds. The Battle of Megaheddon Defile started with a clash of forces. Yawgmoth hovered in the skies amongst the Phyrexian armada, issuing commands, as Gix, his sword and eyes on the ground, surged towards the enemy force with newly created Phyrexian warriors. These Phyrexian creations outranked the Halcyon Guard and military force. They were man fused with machine. They were faster, merciless, unrelenting. Coupled with the customized Thran weaponry, machinery and technology Yawgmoth had modified from Glacian's former plans, it was a horrifying force to behold. The people of Halcyon watched the war unfold from the walls of the city for 3 days. On the 3rd day, the Halcyon people cheered as the battle roared on. Yawgmoth proved to be a ruthless commander, as tenacious as his Phyrexian troops and Thran machines. Then, behind the distant mountains, a glimmer of pearl white began to rise above the battle. The more it swelled from the mountain, the more it seemed like a marble of the purest silver. This was the Null Sphere, an enormous globe-like command station designed by Glacian and Rebek a time ago. The citizens of the Thran referred to it as the Null Moon. It had been created with the intention of being an enormous power station, channeling its energies to all the artifact creatures and constructs in the entirety of the Thran Empire. Rebek stood in her temple, awestruck, as the Null Sphere seemed to roll through the skies above the Megaheddon Defile. She had never intended for it to fly, which meant someone else had modified even that design. Yawgmoth. The Null Sphere transformed the battle to outright slaughter. The opposing Thran machines and creatures turned on their comrades, no longer fighting against the Halcyon force and the Phyrexians. Instead, they allied with them. The rebelling forces routed, retreating desperately as they were cut down in their mid-sprints. The people of Halcyon cheered in exultation. The Null Moon hung in the sky, watching like a baleful eye. Then, something dropped from the gut of the Null Sphere, landing in the center of the Megaheddon Defile, in the midst of the retreating army. There an impact wound dented the landscape of the defile, and the ground heaved. Some kind of milky material or substance drooled from the wound, stretching out in all directions, coating everything. Rebek and the people witnessed this in utter silence, watching the substance form a semicircle that covered the rebelling Thran army. The shockwave came soon after, a wind-shearing blast of force that put every living being in the city on their knees. As Rebek fell, she knew what had just occurred and what had caused that deafening shockwave. Yawgmoth's new weapon, the Stone Charger, a mammoth power stone that sucked the life from the land and all life within it. A weapon designed for mass eradication, Yawgmoth decimated the entire assaulting army in one fell swoop. So we are now near the very end of the Thran era. I suppose you could say technically that the Thran era was over a long time ago, the kind of structure of their civilization anyway, due to this civil war. But there is a finale yet to come that is going to lead to an unquestionable end. In the next episode, we will learn of that end, and in doing so, come full circle in the lore of the Thran Age. Until then, keep releasing your untapped potential.